When it comes down to it, there are many athletes getting paid a whole lot of money. There is even a list that calculates the highest paid athletes of the year, done by Forbes magazine. For many years now, Conor McGregor has sat at the height of that list, and by a lengthy margin as well. So when he was recently dethroned, things went a little crazy online. Stay tuned to today's video as we discuss the world's newest, highest paid athlete. First up, Conor McGregor dethroned from the top position. Of course, we all know why Conor McGregor sat on the top of this list. He is an insane fighter who ranked in the money for his many fights. Recently, the fighter has slowed down in his career after losing a few matches and getting seriously injured in his most recent one. Now that McGregor isn't in the ring, he is getting paid less than an athlete. He, of course, gains millions from sponsorships, his property, and his own brands. But as an athlete, he's being paid way less than he used to. For many years now, McGregor sat at the top of the Forbes highest paid athletes list. He was in fact the first MMA fighter to do so, and was very proud of what he had achieved. His new whiskey company clearly boosted his income and his status on the list, as he was gaining much more money from that. However, in 2022, McGregor is inactive, and just isn't earning anywhere near as much as he was a few years ago. From what we know of this new 2022 list, McGregor isn't even in the top 10 anymore, and the new name at the top of the list is football star Lionel Messi, whose current earnings are about $130 million. At his peak, McGregor was at $150 million, but sadly, he has been moved down to 35th place. According to Forbes, the former UFC champ earned $43 million, with $10 million from endorsements, and $33 million supposedly coming from his second loss to Dustin Poirier in 2021. Note, Forbes' 12-month period is from May 2021 to May 2022, so this only included the 2021 bout to Poirier, while the January 2021 loss was on last year's list. The lone combat sport athlete at the top of this list is Saul Canelo Alvarez, who sits at the number 8 spot with a reported $90 million. A notable newcomer on the list is Jake Paul, who made waves in the boxing world this past year for his victories over Ben Askren and former UFC champion Tyrone Woodley. The problem child is at number 48 on the list, with reported earnings amounting to $38 million before taxes. The main reason McGregor was on the list in the first place is because of how explosive his career was a few years ago. In 2016, he was paid the highest amount any UFC or MMA fighter ever got, and he was still fighting a few times a year. Now that his peak has fallen, he isn't in the prime of his career anymore. Things are changing for McGregor. We know that he can still fight and should be getting back into the octagon later this year, but his earnings and status just aren't what they were. He set the standard for the highest paid athletes, even after everyone thought Floyd Money Mayweather did years prior. Of course, it's not a race anymore, and McGregor doesn't really care about it at all. It's also nice to see newer people get on the list like Jake Paul and some others. We know that the sporting world is changing, so it's nice to see Forbes acknowledge that. So what do you think about all of this? Do you feel like McGregor should have been higher on the list? Or do you understand why it is as it is? Let us know in the comment section below. And now we have some other MMA and fighting news. Next up, Jake Paul offers Michael Bisping $1 million and a share of his pay-per-view revenue for a boxing match. We really can't go a week without Jake Paul being in the fighting news, can we? Recently, Jake Paul has been dipping his toes back into the boxing world and trying to get certain UFC fighters to train up and fight him. The latest person to be a target of Paul is retired UFC fighter Michael Bisping. Paul has offered the ex-UFC fighter $1 million and a share of his own pay-per-view earnings if he steps into the ring with him this year. Paul always offers these crazy amounts of money, as he knows he will win these matches. Though Bisping is an incredible fighter, he isn't a boxer like Paul. No matter what you think about Paul, it's hard to say he isn't an amazing boxer. He has shown time and again how good he is compared to other influencers. Paul has become more of a boxer than a YouTuber or an influencer at this point. Bisping wrote, "Come on it, Jake Paul. You do know I'm about your size. Surely that excludes me from your hit list." Paul responded by writing, "I would knock you out worse than Hendo. You're an easy fight, but show me you can get licensed, and I will show you 1 million plus pay-per-view." This is crazy. What do you think about it all? Now here's why Jon Jones can never be respected ever again in the athletics world. Most of you know that this isn't the first time Jon Jones has been involved with the law, right? He's had bad multiple run-ins in the past, and they aren't great. One thing to think about is that you can't really judge someone on their past if they're trying to make themselves better, and that's a great thing to go by. But when it comes to Jon Jones, it's now a different thing altogether. Even if he said says he's trying to fix himself. He still just did what he did. It's not something he can just brush off. It's a real serious thing that he did the other week. No one can look past it with ease. Jon Jones is slowly losing more respect as he continues to fail on becoming a better man and a better person. It's all good when he's working on himself, but when an attack like this happens, it's hard to say he's trying. What a hard situation everyone is in with Jon Jones right now. Who's the biggest guy in the MMA world? Well, it's Dana White, of course, and he had some things to say about Jon Jones, and it's not looking good for Jones. Dana White has been going on at Jon Jones for a while now. Jon has given Dana a lot of problems over the years, whether it's Jones not going for a fight or him waiting out for a title fight. He just hasn't been the sort of fighter that Dana White wanted him to be. Jon Jones is such a PR mess for the entire MMA, but Dana White had an interesting take on the whole situation. He was asked about possibly dropping Jon Jones from being a PR headache, but he responded with, "Well, that's the fight business. Things happen here every day." It's an interesting take. When there are so many people fighting to be the best, there are going to be complicated conflicts, and just dropping them isn't worth it. But what has Dana done with Jon Jones to make him learn his lesson? Finally, Logan Paul wants to enter the octagon. Against who? Recently, Jake Paul has been talking a lot about wanting to get into the UFC and fight some big names, but his brother Logan hasn't really spoken much about his brother or himself entering the sport. Logan has gone from boxing to recently becoming part of the WWE. He had his first match against the Mysterio family, and it went super well. Regardless how fans feel about Paul beating Mysterio, the fighting was great, and Logan was super good at his moves and playing the part. Now that Logan has done the WWE and boxing, he has been talking about the UFC. He has no beef with anyone in the sport, but said he would love to fight against Paddy Pimblett. Pimblett has been trashing Jake for a long time now, and it would be awesome to see Logan fight him before his brother. There wouldn't be beef between the two. It would just be great to see. Logan had a lot of nice things to say about Paddy, and clearly respects him a whole lot. He spoke about how young and great he was, and how he's rising up quickly. It would be a cool fight in our eyes. What do you think? Let us know down in the comments section below what you think about this possible matchup. And that's the end of today's video. The UFC just seems to get crazier and crazier. We have some crazy stories from these past few weeks, and it looks like things are just getting started. Hopefully the sport is getting back on its feet after a few rough months, especially late last year. And hopefully you enjoyed this latest video. If you did, please let us know in the comment section below. It would be very helpful. Make sure you like the video and comment down below, and of course subscribe to the channel with the notification bell rung. Thank you for watching today's video. Bye!